Hello everybody, welcome to the video. I hope you're doing well. Today, as you can see, it's going to be another horror Blu Ray update, but title is different. As you can see there, it says DVD as well. The reason being, I've only got 6 Blu Rays to show off today, and I thought that's not really enough to warrant a video, but I'm not going to be buying any more of these in the near future, so I've been wanting to show these off for a while, but to fill a video, I've pulled out my stack of DVDs as well. They're not particularly flashy or anything, the films are pretty well known, but something interesting to show off in a video, I suppose. And the other thing is the lighting looks funny because it's snowing outside in the middle of March, and this is as good as I could get it to look. So yeah, if it looks weird, you'll have to excuse me. But straight on with it, I think. We'll start with the Blu-rays because they are a bit more interesting. And there's quite a few of these are 88 films, and I've not really got many of their releases, so this is quite interesting. First one to show off is from the Italian collection. It is number 14 from 1981, and it is the film Burial Ground by, what's his name, Andrea Bianchi, I suppose it's Bianchi. Yeah, I hadn't heard of this film before I bought it. I just sort of, I knew of it, I hadn't seen it, didn't know that much about it, but it was on offer, so I thought, you know what, I enjoy zombie films, I'm going to take a chance on it, and am I glad I did? Sort of. It's a funny one. It's one of those films that it's bad. It's really badly made. It was clearly made to cash in on the sort of Dawn of the Dead hype that was sort of around this time with zombie films. And yeah, it's not very well made, and the story makes very little effort, you know, but it's fun enough to watch. I'd definitely watch it again. I watched it with my dad, and he thought the same thing. On the back there, you've got obviously the summary of the film. Summary of the film really is just some people go to visit someone and then zombies appear out of the ground, and that's it. That is literally the whole film. Very good special effects though, it surprised me. Bonus features, you've got quite a decent stack there. I wasn't too familiar with Andrea Bianchi before I got this, but there's a documentary on here. Where are we? Morte on the film's... Oh, sorry, I read the wrong line. Interview with Michael Coven, author of La Dolce Morte, there you go, on the films of Andrea Bianchi. Now, I always look through the special features, and yeah, he seems like an interesting guy, did a couple of murder mystery films. Some weird themes running through his movies, including in this one, but hey-ho, you know, gotta be unique. The disc is sort of, as a few of these are, just sort of green, which, you know, not the best design in the world, but it works. And then you've got the original artwork in there. Pretty cool, but I mean, you know, that is so much better. So, would I recommend this film? Yeah, I suppose I would if you like tacky zombie films. And yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert on Blu-rays, but this looks pretty neat and tidy. So yeah, pretty decent release there, and I'm happy to have it. So that's Burial Ground. Next up, also from the Italian collection, number 5 from 1980, another zombie film, is Zombie Holocaust. Now, this is in the Section 3 Video Nasties list, so I had the pleasure of watching this recently and reviewing it. And pretty much the same thing as Burial Ground, although maybe slightly better, I don't know. It's basically zombie flesh eaters redone by someone else. Ian McCulloch is in this. And yeah, it's just an Italian zombie movie. In fact, it's got cannibals in it as well. The zombies make very little appearance up until the end. But yeah, I mean, artwork is 10 out of 10. I absolutely love these pieces of artwork you get on the Italian collection. And yeah, can't quite remember the plot, but people end up going to an island and there's zombies there. If you've seen Zombie Flesh Eaters, it's sort of very similar to that. And yeah, again, bonus features, pretty good bonus features there. The documentary on here is, where are we at? Eaten Alive, a brand new feature-length documentary about the Italian cannibal film phenomenon. So yeah, I'm not a massive fan of the cannibal genre, but I did give that a watch. It's very interesting. And yeah, it is sort of more of a cannibal movie than a zombie film. Sort of some zombies appear halfway through, breathing heavily, and then you're like, oh, there's zombies in this film as well. Again, just a green disc, but it works for what it is. Original artwork in there, looks pretty cool, but again, I preferred that. And yeah, not to spoil the upcoming Section 3 series, but I thought this was pretty good. You know, I would definitely watch this again. It was not great, but it was enjoyable enough. This was also known as, was it Dr. Butcher MD or something, Medical Deviant or something like that in America, cashing in on the slasher market when it's not a slasher film at all. But there you go. This is the third and final zombie film Yes, it is, sort of. And this is also from the Italian collection from 88 films. This is number 9 from 1988. And speaking of zombie flesh eaters, it is Zombie Flesh Eaters 2 or Zombie 3 or whatever title it goes under where you are. This is one of those movies that's got about 900 different aliases. Yeah, very strange one. I didn't know that Zombie Flesh Eaters had a sequel until pretty recently, and yeah, obviously I saw it and picked it up, knowing it wasn't going to be great because I've heard reviews about it, and it was sort of later in Fulci's career, and yeah, it's not good. Sort of depressing to see someone who'd made films like The Beyond and House by the Cemetery, Zombie Flesh Eaters reduced to this. Although it's argued how much Lucio Fulci actually had involvement in this film, but I know he definitely had at least a hand in it. There's certain things in here which he claims to be his own. Yeah, some gas. I think it's some gas. A body or something is burnt, and then the gas escapes into the atmosphere and turns people into zombies. Return of the Living Dead vibes here, and yeah, in the action as well, because it's very 80s action more than horror. But it's not good 80s. It feels quite tacky, but not in a good way. Again, just the green disc there. That's the alternate cover. It's the same basically. It's just called Zombie 3 instead. In fact, I might switch those around because I think I prefer the sort of bigger artwork. But yeah, there you go. Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. I wouldn't recommend it because it's a good film, but I'd recommend it if you've seen Zombie Flesh Eaters or if you're a fan of Fulci, just for completists, because it's a film. It's a film that he made. It's not very good, but there you go. Zombie Flesh Eaters 2. Right, okay, so we're moving away from zombies now, but we're sticking with 88 films. This wasn't in any particular collection. This is just a Blu Ray release of Evil Speak, one of the video nasties, section 1 or 2. I can't remember which one. Quite a famous film, really. Stars Clint Howard, Ron Howard's brother. Yeah, kid gets bullied at military camp, discovers that he can summon an ancient devil-worshipping bloke, and yeah, it's sort of Carrie turned up to 11. Not a great film, but it's, it's alright, it's more than watchable. Special features again, got stacks of stuff on there. Open this up quickly. Disc is pretty simplistic, and you can't really see the artwork, so I will just pull this out. I went for the original artwork just because I think that's very cool, but equally, the alternate artwork is pretty nice too. So yeah, I mean, I sort of touched on this film in my Video Nasties Ranked series, but if you want quick thoughts on it, then yeah, it's basically a rip-off of Carrie, but I was never a big fan of the original Carrie anyway, so yeah, it's a different take on it, and it works alright. So there you go, Evil Speak. Here's a film that I'm not sure many people will have heard of, so I might have to do a bit of explaining. This is William Peter Blatty's The Exorcist. Not going to talk about this film, everyone knows The Exorcist. Yeah, this is the scariest film of all time. Extended director's cut and original theatrical version. I believe I showed this off in my vinyl tag video when they said what are your other hobbies, so I'll just quickly run through. Yeah, pretty basic package really. It's not 88 films, it's just Warner Brothers. So yeah, you don't get any other artwork, but you've got the director's cut and the theatrical version. I tend to stick to the theatrical one, although the director's cut is an interesting viewing experience. Special features, I mean, not really too much. You've got a 3-part documentary, but other than that, it's pretty basic stuff, sort of commentaries and things like that. But it's interesting enough, they talk about the Exorcist curse and things like that and how people died, and yeah, very infamous film, but I thought, I should own it on Blu Ray, and there you go. That's the one I've got. There's probably better ones out there, but I will get my hands on those in time. Right, final Blu Ray now. And this is Arrow Video, probably my favourite company when it comes to Blu Ray. And this is a film I watched relatively recently, was really, really impressed with, and then saw it in HMV, and Dad kindly bought it for me. So this is Demons. Also known as Demoni in Italy, directed by Lamberto Bava, and produced by Dario Argento, 2 big names in horror. Cool artwork there. If you haven't seen this film, some people show a movie at a cinema, but the movie sort of has ties to this weird mask, and a girl cuts herself and the movie comes to life, and there's zombie demons running around everywhere. And yeah, it's an action film really, isn't it? It's got very serious horror elements in there, but I mean, it's a late 80s action film. Mid 80s, should I say. Soundtrack, I mean, here you go. Additional music, it's got a Goblin soundtrack, Claudio Simonetti anyway. Additional music by Rick Springfield, Motley Crue, Pretty Maids, Go West, The Adventures, Billy Idol, Accept Saxon. I don't know if that's Accept and Saxon or Accept Saxon, but yeah. Quite a heavy metal film, really. In there, we've got the film and then a special features disc, as you can see. Really tempted to go for the original artwork on this one, because I really like that sort of the image of the demons coming up the staircase in the fog, but I just I always like the title that I know it by to be sort of on the spine, and I know this film was Demons rather than Demoni, so there you go. That's Demons, or it would be if I could get the case closed. There you go. That's Demons, great film if you haven't seen it. There's a second one as well, which I haven't seen, but apparently that's okay as well. We're 11 minutes into this, I think, yeah. So I'm going to run through these pretty quick. Like I said at the start, this is my DVD collection. Not very big, not particularly interesting, but it's just something else to show off. So we'll go through in alphabetical order. I'm not as much of a DVD fan as a Blu Ray fan, so I've not got quite as much to say. This is the Amityville Horror, the original 1979 film. There's a rag and bone man wandering around. Starring James Brolin, Margot Kidder, Rod Steiger. Yeah, just it's a classic film, isn't it? The Amityville Horror. Again, you know, just a basic package with Margot Kidder's screaming face on it. Yeah, quite an intense film, really. It actually freaked me out the first time I watched it all the way through. But it's a very famous story, very famous film. And yeah, it's well worth owning, so I hope to get this and all these on Blu-ray at some point. Right, next up. There's a really interesting story behind this DVD, which I'll try and touch on. This is Herschel Gordon Lewis's Colour Me Blood Red. A terrible film, like appallingly bad film, from 1965, I think. The newest trend is art in... The newest trend in art is type O negative. Yeah, basically a guy is getting criticised for his paintings, and then he suddenly realises that the colour blood is what he needs, and then he kills people and takes their blood for his artwork. Yeah, it's Herschel Gordon Lewis, it's tacky, it's terrible, but it's entertaining in a way. Disc, very simplistic. Now, this piece of paper is the story behind this, and a piece of hair has just flown out at me, which freaks me out. Quickly, there's a channel called Dark Corners Reviews. They do reviews of B-movie, mainly horror films, often not. The latest one they did was called The Apple, which is like this horrendous looking sort of rock musical from the 80s. Yeah, and they're fantastic guys, they make fantastic videos, so for one, go and check their channel out. But also, I started following them a few years ago, and I sort of got quite involved in this very strange way. You know, they have this competition called Hard Corner of the Year, where, you know, it's basically, you know, a follower / subscriber who wins the Hard Corner of the Year. And there was quite a fierce competition this one year, and there was a whole saga that went on between me and a few other people. And yeah, I met my good friend Jack through them, so massive thanks to that. And yeah, this is basically a note from them that I was to make a video, and this was something I got for it, was their DVD of it. And if you remember back, I made a video called A Message to Dark Corners Reviews, and no one knew what it was. And that's what it was. That was sort of my weird involvement in it. And yeah, they sort of sent me a lock of Robin's hair in this DVD box, and it sounds weird the more I explain it, so I'm going to stop. But yeah, go and check out Dark Corners. They send people hair in the mail. And yeah, there you go. Call Me Blood Red. Awful film, but funny story behind the DVD. Got this on Blu-ray, got this on DVD as well. Cloverfield, sort of a modern classic in a way, isn't it? Sort of found footage, monster movie, Godzilla goes to America. Very basic package, not much really to say about this one other than it's a pretty good film. I haven't seen, is it 11 Cloverfield Lane or something like that, or there's a Netflix thing. Haven't seen either of those, so I can't comment, but yeah, this is a pretty enjoyable film. if you haven't seen it, which everybody has. Right, next up, it's another one I got on Blu Ray for Christmas. This is from Ealing Studios. Dead of Night. This is probably the first portmanteau movie or anthology movie or whatever you want to call it, where there's more than one story in the film all linked up by a central narrative. And it's a really strange film. It's from the 1940s and it's got that sort of British, oh my, that sort of feel to it. And yeah, it's just a selection of creepy stories with one quite funny story in it. And the most famous one is the one with the ventriloquist doll at the end. And yeah, it's old, but it's successful in creating a creepy atmosphere. So if you like your Amicus stuff, you like your Vault of Horror, things like that, then, you know, sort of this is its grandfather. So if you haven't seen it, check it out. A weird postcard thing. And yeah, the disc is in there, Dead of Night. And like I say, my dad was kind enough to get this for me on Blu Ray at Christmas, so thanks to Dad. This film is probably going to make an appearance in a future video because I wanted to make a video about horror films that actually scared me, because as much as I watch a lot of horror films, it's sort of rare that any of them get to me, but this one did when I was really young and I was shown it by my grandma. This is House on Haunted Hill by William Castle, starring Vincent Price. Yeah, it's black and white haunted house movie, typical William Castle. It's quite gimmicky, there's a lot of comedy in it. But the horror is quite sort of intense for its time. There's a particular moment in this film that's probably one of the most effective jump scare moments in any movie. And yeah, I mean, there's severed heads and hanging people and all sorts, so it's pretty intense for a movie from the 50s. But yeah, a millionaire invites a load of people who need money to try and survive a night in the house on Haunted Hill. And I think they get $10,000 or something like that if they manage to survive, but it's not as easy as that. Yeah, it's a great film, and it scared the hell out of me when I was young, to the point where when I went to watch it recently, I was actually a bit apprehensive about it. But yeah, it's silly when you look back on it, but, you know, these things can scare you when you're young and impressionable. Next four, I'm going to show off all at once. This is Jaws. This is Jaws 2, and Jaws 3, and Jaws the Revenge. They get progressively worse as they go on. Jaws is a fantastic movie. Famous cover. I'm not going to talk about Jaws. Everyone knows what Jaws is. If you haven't seen it, then watch it. Fantastic movie. The second one is pretty okay. It works well for what it is. Although it's been a while since I've seen it. Again, very basic package. That's the thing with DVDs. They're not as interesting to show off. There you go. There's the collection. So yeah, most famous scene in this is probably the girl on the jet skis. I think she was actually on the poster. So there you go. Jaws 2 is okay. It's terrible, but I've sort of got a soft spot for Jaws 3. It's set in SeaWorld and the shark gets in and starts terrorising people. Of course, all of this will be solved if people would just stay out of the water, but there you go. Yeah, this is a film that Dark Corners have reviewed. So yeah, Jaws 3. It's bad, but, you know, worth a watch. And then Jaws the Revenge. From what I can remember, the shark actually follows the family round the world, or follows them to somewhere for revenge, hence the title. And it's ridiculous, and I don't know what Michael Caine was thinking doing this movie, but it's sort of enjoyable. I remember thinking it was alright, but it's, you know, compared to the original, it's never going to live up to it, is it? So there you go, that's Jaws 1 through 4. Next one is a nostalgic one, because this is one I always remember seeing on my dad's DVD shelf, and then he, like a lot of these are my dad's, he just sort of gives me loads of films to watch. And this one will be familiar to those of you who watch the Video Nasty series again. Living Dead at Manchester Morgue, also known as Let Sleeping Corpses Lie, also known as Don't Speak Ill of the Dead, also known as Don't Open the Window, also known as like Zombie 8 or something ridiculous. Yeah, great zombie film, really underrated. The soundtrack is good, as you'll know if you watched my video of it. And yeah, just a really great Italian zombie film set in England. And I don't know why this isn't more well known. It's a fantastic movie. I've never known a film come with a booklet like this before. It's like a beast of a booklet. But yeah, basically goes through all the film's incarnations, the making of, got stills and things from it, advertising posters, things like that. There you go, published in England, Hampton Road, telephone number, all that sort of thing. Yeah, it's a really cool film, and if you haven't seen it, then I would urge you to go and see it, especially if you're a fan of zombie films. So there you go, The Living Dead at Manchester Morgue. Speaking of Jack, actually, my friend who I met through Dark Corners, this was a birthday present for me from him last year. And yeah, this is a really bizarre one. This is The Last House on Dead End Street, the DVD. What's that say? Edition Prestige. I believe this is a French. I was going to say pressing. I'm not talking about vinyl. This is a French edition because it says Un film de Roger Watkins, which I believe is French for a film by Roger Watkins. And this is such a bizarre movie. A guy gets out of prison and tries to take revenge on society by making snuff films, is the basic premise. But it's one of those movies where the story behind the movie is more interesting than the film itself. Like, this is, does it say about an hour and 30 minutes? The original cut of this film was 3 hours long. It was called Cuckoo Clocks of Hell. That is considered lost. This is a sort of cut down version, but apparently it misses absolutely loads out. It was made on a tiny budget, most of which was spent on drugs. All the people in this film used aliases, so it was sort of a mystery as to who made it, who starred in it, all that sort of thing. Really horrible movie. It's like, it's horrible because it is bad, but it's enjoyable. But it's horrible because it's got that feeling of a really low budget, grimy film. I think it was made in 1974. And yeah, apparently this isn't that easy to get hold of, so I'm very happy to have it, and thank you to Jack for getting it for me. But yeah, it's such a strange film that I'm gonna let you go off and look at it for yourself if you're interested. But yeah, also known as The Funhouse, I believe, and it's rumoured whether Tobe Hooper's film The Funhouse was mistakenly put on the Video Nasties list in place of this. And I believe that because the Funhouse, Tobe Hooper's version, is very, very tame. This is a Video Nasty. This is a grisly, grisly film. So yeah, there you go. Last House on Dead End Street. Interesting enough. Is the full film on YouTube? I'm not sure, but give it a watch if you're interested. This is going on for far too long. I apologise. We've only got a few more to go. This one is something I should have mentioned in a live stream recently because someone asked me what my favourite horror franchise was, and I couldn't think of one that was sort of solid all the way through, you know what I mean? Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, all started off really strong. By sort of the 4th or 5th one, they'd all descended into pretty much trash. You know, Alien, sort of, but again, the 3rd one's a weak film. But yeah, my dad mentioned this, and I thought, you know what, that is a pretty solid choice. So, my choice for my favourite horror franchise is Psycho. Weirdly, a lot of people don't seem to know that Psycho has sequels, but yeah, it's got Psycho 1 through 4, and I know you're thinking, why would you make sequels to that film? But they're all really good. Like, the second one is, in my opinion, just as good as the first one. The third one, it's, albeit more of a slasher movie, but it's, you know, it still works. It's Anthony Perkins. Psycho 4, not that I can remember it that well, but it gets pretty okay reviews, you know, for a 4th film in a franchise. So yeah, it's just pretty solid, and this is a little box set of all 4 of them in one of these big cases. Open it up, basic package again, but there you go, there's all 4 of the discs. And, you know, all I'm going to say is if you haven't seen Psycho 1 through 4, then that's a good film day for you, because it's a really, really solid series, and I'm surprised I didn't think of it when I was asked about it. So there you go. Only 4 more to go, don't worry. Another film, again, that scared me when I saw it when I was younger, and it's not strictly horror, but it's definitely got horror elements. This is War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. It says it's a Steven Spielberg film. Did he direct this? Did. I didn't know Steven Spielberg directed this. This film gets a lot of crap, and I don't see why. I think it's really good. Yeah, some really scary ideas. And I know it's a remake, and, you know, remakes generally don't go down very well, but I think this is pretty good. I think it's a pretty good remake. Again, not strictly horror, but it's definitely got enough horror in it to include it here, and it scared me when I was a kid, so there you go. War of the Worlds. we're into the last three. Asian horror films have always got a sort of reputation for being like the scariest horror films. I mean, you've got Ringu, you've got The Grudge, you know, and you've got this film, which I believe is Thai. I think it's Thai. There's an American remake, but it's not as good. This is Shutter, which is a ghost story about a guy who did something not so pleasant and then is haunted through his camera. And yeah, it's just really creepy. It's got that weird Asian thing going on, you know, girls with long black hair and things like that. And it's, some would say it's sort of generic in its, you know, it's just a pretty standard ghost story, but it's done in such a way that it really does come across as really creepy. You've got the film and then a bonus disc. And yeah, this often gets overlooked in Asian horror, because, I mean, even stuff like Tetsuo the Iron Man and Audition, sort of more obscure films, seem to get more attention than this, and I think this deserves, you know, just as much. So that's Shutter. Consider this just a recommendation video, really. If you haven't seen these films, then I would get yourself out there and watch them. And I'm going to show these last two together, because they go together. And the first one of these is one of mine and Dad's favourite horror films, very effective. It is the original When a Stranger Calls, starring Carol Kane, the legend, and then you've got the sequel, When a Stranger Calls Back. Can't remember this one as much, but I remember thinking it was okay. Just quickly onto this one though. Classic film. Like, I wouldn't call it a slasher as much as it's sort of like a gritty crime drama with serious horror influences in it. But yeah, like I said there, it's a 15, so it's not bloody or gory or anything, but it's just one of those films where it gets really intense really quickly. Sort of, very famously, the first like 20 minutes of this film is seen as some of the scariest cinema there ever has been. And I would have to agree, it's the first 20 minutes of this film is a rough experience. And if I can get the DVD open, I'll show you. There you go, that was worth it, wasn't it? There. That's the thing with DVDs, they're just really boring packages generally, so I'm not too keen on them, but there you go. When a Stranger Calls. Fantastic movie. And not as good, but still more than watchable, is When a Stranger Calls Back. Again, stars a few of the same people, Carol Kane, the legend. But yeah, basically, he comes back, and yeah, it's as you'd expect, really. Here you go, there's the disc. And that's everything. When a Stranger Calls Back is where we're leaving it. So, a long one, nearly half an hour, but I tried to whisk through it as quickly as I could. Like I say, this series will probably be back in the future with just Blu-rays, because I know they're more interesting to show off, but I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the films that I've shown off, particularly the Blu-rays, because, you know, it's an interesting selection of films, and I'd be interested to hear people's thoughts, but I'm not going to ramble on anymore. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in a future video. Bye for now.